whispers of pain, welcomes you. Tonight I want you to listen to a story that might sound like a headline on the evening news, but it could just as easily be your neighbor's story, or your own. This is the story of how one American family destroyed itself in the courtroom, piece by piece. Ethan and Claire Lawson were the kind of couple people used as proof that love still existed. He was an architect in Chicago, known for designing glass front houses that captured the sunrise. She was a high school English teacher, the kind of teacher who knew every student's name, their favorite book, their quiet fears. They met in college, married at 25, bought their first home at 28. By 35, they had what everyone around them called the dream. A big white 2-story house in a safe suburb. 2 children, Emma, 9 years old, thoughtful and sensitive, and Jack, 6, all energy and loud laughter. 2 cars in the driveway, his black BMW, her white SUV, vacations twice a year, Christmas photos in matching sweaters, smiles for social media. From the outside, it looked perfect. From the inside, it was starting to crack. The first real fracture came quietly, almost politely. It started with late nights. Ethan's projects grew bigger. More clients, more pressure, more deadlines. He stayed longer at the office, or at least that's what he said. Claire stayed home with the children after school, grading essays at the kitchen table while dinner simmered on the stove and cartoons played in the background. At first, she believed him every time. Big project. New client. Just one more meeting. But late nights became normal. Missed dinners became routine, and one sentence began to repeat itself like a broken record in her head. He's choosing something else over us. One evening, at 11:47 p.m., she heard the familiar sound of the garage door opening. Ethan walked in, tie loose, hair a little messy, phone still in his hand. "You said you'd be home by 8, she said quietly. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. He sighed. The client needed revisions. The contractor messed up the timeline. "I can't control everything, Claire." "You didn't call," she answered. "I made dinner. The kids waited." He dropped his keys onto the counter, a little too hard. "I'm doing this for us," he snapped. "For this house. For these bills. For their future." "And what good is their future?" she replied, her voice suddenly sharp. "If their father is never here in their present?" Silence filled the kitchen like smoke, heavy, suffocating. He turned away first. That night, they slept in the same bed, but between them something invisible and cold had settled like a wall. The second fracture was not quiet. It came with proof. One Saturday afternoon, Claire was cleaning the living room while the kids played upstairs. Ethan had gone out to meet a client. His laptop bag was on the couch, half open. She had never gone through his things before. She had never wanted to. But today, something pulled her hand. Her fingers moved on their own, opening the bag, sliding the laptop out, just enough to see the light blink. The screen was already awake, a window open, a message thread. A woman's name stared back at her. Sophia. She told herself to close it, not to look. But she didn't. Her eyes followed the words. "I can't wait to see you again. Last night was perfect. I wish you didn't have to go home." Photos, a hotel room. Ethan's smile, but not the one he wore at home. Younger, freer, happier. Her heart didn't break with a scream. It broke with a whisper inside her mind. "So that's where you've been." She didn't cry right away. Her body felt numb. Her hands were steady as she closed the laptop and put it back exactly how she found it. She didn't call him. She didn't text. She went upstairs, tucked the kids in for a nap, and sat alone on the edge of her bed, staring at the wall until the afternoon turned into evening. When he finally came home, hours later, she was waiting at the kitchen table. "Who is Sophia?" she asked. His face changed, just for a second. But she saw it, the flicker of panic. "What are you talking about?" he tried. "Don't lie," she said, and now her voice was shaking. "I saw the messages. I saw the pictures. The truth didn't come clean. It came in broken pieces. Just a colleague. It was only once. It didn't mean anything. I was stressed. I made a mistake." She realized something cruel in that moment. It wasn't the fact that he cheated that hurt the most. It was the way he still tried to negotiate the damage, to make it smaller, to make her reaction feel too big. "We have kids, Ethan," she whispered. "We have a life. You didn't just break a promise to me. You broke a home." He swallowed. "We can fix this. We can go to therapy. We can—" "No," she cut him off. "You made your choice." And right then, as calmly as she could, Claire said the words that would start the war. "I want a divorce." At first, Ethan thought she was bluffing. They had too much to lose, too much shared. The house, the cars, the accounts, the routines, the holidays, the children. Surely she wouldn't really destroy everything. But Claire didn't scream. She didn't beg. She didn't threaten. She hired a lawyer. Her attorney's office smelled like coffee and paper. The lawyer, a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and a calm voice, spread documents across the table. "Claire, you need to understand," she said. "This is not just about leaving. This is about dividing a life. Children, property, money. Every choice you make will echo for years." "I just want what's fair," Claire murmured. "And I want my kids safe." "Then we go to court prepared for war," the lawyer replied. "Because your husband will not see this as fair. He will see it as attack." She wasn't wrong. When Ethan was served the divorce papers at his office, surrounded by glass and steel and colleagues trying not to stare, something inside him snapped. He thought they would talk, that they would settle it quietly. Instead, someone else now held a folder with his name on it and the word "respondent" written in cold, black letters. He hired a lawyer of his own, a man, polished and expensive, who spoke with a confidence that felt like a weapon. "Listen," his lawyer said, "if she's the one asking for divorce, she'll want the kids, the house, and probably alimony. We don't play nice unless she does. We protect your assets. We protect your time with the children. If she wants to fight, we fight." Ethan nodded, but something heavy slid into his stomach. He hadn't thought about it this way before. Not as assets, not as time with the children. But that's exactly what the divorce turned them into. The first court hearing was about temporary orders. Who would live where? Who would pay what? Who would have the children and when? The courtroom was colder than Claire expected. Not only in temperature, but in feeling. Beige walls, wooden benches, strangers waiting with their own tragedies on their laps. When their case was called, Lawson versus Lawson, her heart skipped a beat. She took the stand. So did he. Her lawyer painted her as the stable caregiver, the one who stayed, the one who organized doctor visits, school meetings, bedtime routines, the mother who had built the children's daily life piece by piece. Ethan's lawyer painted him as the provider, the one who paid for the house, the schools, the vacations, the father who loved his kids, who had made a mistake, but was still essential, still present, still necessary. The affair was mentioned. carefully, bluntly. "Mr. Lawson," Claire's lawyer asked, voice steady, "is it true you engaged in an extramarital relationship during your marriage?" Ethan's jaw tightened. "Yes, it was a mistake." "Did you tell your wife?" "No." "How did she find out?" He hesitated. "She saw messages." "In your opinion, did your actions contribute to the breakdown of the marriage?" "Yes," he said quietly. There it was, spoken, recorded, official. But acknowledgement didn't heal anything. It just drew a line through their shared life, red and permanent. The judge granted Claire temporary primary custody. Ethan would see the children every other weekend and one evening during the week. He would stay in a rented apartment nearby. He would pay the mortgage, child support, and some of the household expenses, at least until a final decision was reached. On paper, it was a balanced, temporary plan. In reality, it was the beginning of resentment. The children felt the earthquake even if no one explained the Richter scale. One night, Emma asked, "Mom, why is Dad's closet empty?" Claire froze. "He's staying somewhere else for a while," she answered. "But he still loves you. That will never change." "Is it because you're mad at him?" Emma pushed. "Did he do something bad?" Claire swallowed the truth back down. "It's complicated." Another time, in the car with Ethan, 6-year-old Jack asked, "Dad, did you get kicked out?" Ethan laughed weakly. "No, buddy. It's just grown-up stuff." "Did you do something wrong?" Jack asked bluntly. The question landed like a punch. Ethan didn't answer. He just turned on the radio a little louder. The children began to live in 2 different houses with 2 different sets of rules. At Mom's house, bedtime was 9, no screens at the table, homework first. At Dad's rental, bedtime was softer, pizzas delivered too late, movies a little too scary but exciting, new toys appearing as if from nowhere. The kids didn't realize something simple. They were not just being loved. They were being competed for. As the months went on, the divorce became less about ending a marriage and more about winning. There were depositions, bank statements, lists of assets. The house was valued by an appraiser, $480,000. His BMW and her SUV were listed with their market values. Retirement accounts, savings, even the furniture. The dining table where they'd celebrated birthdays was assigned a number. The couch where their children took their first naps was assigned a number. The bed where they once whispered about their future was assigned a number. Everything they had built together was now a series of lines in a spreadsheet. Claire wanted the house. She argued stability for the children, same bedrooms, same school district, same neighborhood. Ethan saw the numbers and felt panic. Paying for the house while living somewhere else, paying support, splitting assets. His future felt like it was collapsing under debt and obligation. His lawyer whispered, "If she gets the house, you'll carry that weight for years, maybe decades. You need something in return. You need more time with the children. You need to push back." And so he did. In documents and arguments, he began to accuse Claire of being controlling, of using the children against him, of poisoning them with her opinion. She read his statements and felt betrayed all over again. "You want war?" she told her lawyer. "Fine, we fight." Her lawyer started collecting her own ammunition, text messages, emails, calendars showing every doctor visit she had managed, every parent-teacher conference she'd attended alone. What neither of them realized in those moments was that every bullet they fired at each other ricocheted into their children. The climax came on the day of the final hearing. This was the day the judge would decide who got the house, how the cars would be divided, how much money would be paid, and for how long. And most painfully, who would have primary custody of the children. The courtroom was a theater of quiet desperation. Claire sat on one side with her lawyer. Ethan sat on the other with his. Between them, an aisle that felt like a canyon. On the witness stand, they each took turns dissecting the life they once shared. "Mrs. Lawson," Ethan's lawyer began, "isn't it true that you once yelled at your husband in front of the children, calling him a liar and coward?" "Yes," she admitted, eyes burning. "I was hurt. I shouldn't have said it like that." "Do you believe that was in the best interest of your children?" She blinked. "No, it wasn't." Later, Claire's lawyer questioned Ethan. "Mr. Lawson, you stated you're fully committed to your children's daily lives. Can you tell the court who their pediatrician is?" He hesitated. I don't remember the name. Who is Emma's homeroom teacher?" He stared at the table. "I don't know." "Who takes Jack to his therapy appointments for his speech delay?" Claire's eyes filled when the lawyer said that. Jack had been struggling to pronounce his R and L sounds. She had taken him, week after week, every Friday at 3 p.m. Ethan whispered, "She does." "So when you say you are equally involved in their daily lives," the lawyer pressed gently, "what do you mean?" "I love them," he replied, voice cracking. "I love them more than anything." "And yet," the lawyer said softly, "love is not the only thing this court can measure." Ethan felt his throat close. For the first time, he saw himself not as a husband defending his pride, but as a father who didn't even know his kid's doctor's name. The judge took a long time to speak. Paper rustled. Lawyers shifted. Claire's hands trembled in her lap. Ethan stared at a spot on the floor, as if the wood grain could change the outcome. Finally, the judge began. "This court recognizes that both parents love their children," the judge said. "However, we must consider stability, involvement, and the best interests of the minors above all else." Words fell like stones. Primary residential custody of the children, awarded to Claire. Ethan would have them every other weekend and one night a week, plus shared holidays and a portion of vacations. The marital home, awarded to Claire, with the expectation that she would refinance within a set period. If she could not, the home would be sold and the proceeds split. The cars, the BMW to Ethan, the SUV to Claire, each responsible for their own payments, the retirement accounts and savings, divided according to law, percentages calculated down to the cent, child support, ordered in a monthly amount that made Ethan's stomach twist, spousal support for a limited number of years also ordered. It was, by legal standards, a fair judgment, balanced, rational, structured. But there was nothing fair about watching a life be cut into pieces and handed back like separate, mismatched parts. Claire cried silently, not from victory, but from exhaustion. Ethan sat perfectly still, feeling like he had just watched a slow-motion crash that he himself had caused. He wanted to be angry at the judge, at her, at the lawyers, at the system. But deep down, beneath the resentment and fear, he knew the truth. This was the price of his choices, and everyone, including his children, was paying for it. Months later, the dust began to settle, at least on the outside. The children adjusted to schedules printed on the fridge. Mom's week. Dad's weekend. Holiday with Mom this year. Holiday with Dad next year. At Claire's house, the familiar table remained. The bedrooms were the same, though a little emptier without his things in the closet. She refinanced the mortgage, signed her name alone, where once there had been two. Some nights, she stood at the kitchen window, watching the wind move the trees in the backyard, and whispered to herself, "Was this worth it? Did I save us? Or just break us in a different way?" At Ethan's new apartment, there were toys stacked in one corner of the living room, always waiting. Posters on the wall the kids chose themselves, extra toothbrushes in the bathroom. Every other Sunday evening, after dropping the kids off at their mother's, he drove back in silence. The apartment felt too quiet, his footsteps too loud. He would open the fridge, stare at the half-empty shelves, and realize that the real emptiness was not in the kitchen. His phone would buzz sometimes with a new message, not from Sophia. She was long gone, from his bank app, from his lawyer, from the court, reminders of how permanent this all was. The most painful part was not the money, not the house, not even the cars. It was the moments that no court could schedule. The scraped knee he wasn't there to bandage because it happened on her week. The bedtime story she didn't read because they were at his place that night. The school play where Emma scanned the audience and had to find them sitting on opposite sides of the room. They learned to clap separately. They learned to send photos of missed moments. They learned to say, "I'm glad you had fun," even when jealousy twisted in their gut. One evening during drop-off, Emma lingered by the car door. "Dad?" she asked. "Yes, sweetheart?" "Do you and Mom hate each other?" The question froze him. "No," he said slowly. We're angry. We're hurt. We're trying to figure things out. But we don't hate each other. And we both love you. That part is never going to change." She studied his face, as if trying to decide if she believed him. "Then why did you break our house?" she whispered. He had no answer. Because adults hurt each other and call it freedom? Because pride mattered more than listening? Because he wanted something he thought he deserved, and only realized too late what it would cost? He swallowed hard. "I made mistakes," he said. "Big ones. And your mom did what she thought she had to do. Sometimes grown-ups break things they never meant to break." She nodded slowly, then walked toward the front door, backpack bouncing on her shoulders. At the doorway, Claire watched. Their eyes met. There was no hatred there, just layers of disappointment, exhaustion, and a grief they couldn't put into words. He raised his hand in a small wave. She did the same. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was something. Whispers of pain. This story of an American divorce is not about villains and heroes. There was betrayal. There was anger. There was a courtroom that turned love into evidence and children into schedules. There was a house turned into an asset. Cars turned into leverage. Memories turned into bargaining chips. But underneath all of that, there were two human beings who once stood in front of an altar and promised forever, not knowing how fragile forever really was. Some people will hear this story and take sides. Some will say, she was right. Others will say, he lost everything. But the truth is simpler and darker. In a loud American divorce, no one truly wins. They just learn how much a life is worth when a judge has to put a number on it. And the quietest victims are often the ones in the back seat of the car, holding their backpacks, driving from one home to another, trying to understand how one house became two. This has been Whispers of Pain. If you're listening to this and it feels too familiar, remember the words we say, the choices we make, the secrets we keep, They don't just break hearts. They can break homes.